Hey, welcome everyone. I love to see you all. Guido, Notesh, Tony, Natalia, everyone else. Love to have you in our monthly heart-powered speaking community session. And you're up for a treat today for sure. We love to have you. It's an amazing session that we've put together. We have an amazing guest waiting for you. So again, welcome. For everyone that's been with us, quite a few of you have been with us quite regularly, month after month. You know what we are doing, but we have a couple of first timers with us as well. So welcome, first timers. For you to know what is this year, what are you coming into, what are you gaining, and who is Monique in the first place? You know, who am I running these sessions? Well, I'm the founder of Heart Powered Business, and our mantra is speak up, scale up, impact the world. Well, we've helped hundreds of clients from more than 50 countries from all over the world to go professional with their speaking and really to double, triple, and even quadruple their income with our Voice to Millions framework. I've myself been a paid speaker for more than 20 years, and I've been on stages in more than 30 countries all around the world, and really grew my business through speaking massively myself. And if you are serious about stepping up with your speaking, before you jump into the session, we always give you an opportunity beyond these sessions as well to step up. We have something juicy coming up very soon. We run another one of our speaking breakthrough challenges, a 5-day challenge, a 3-day challenge actually, where we're going to help you to understand what are the 8 major steps to really rock it professionally with your speaking, where we help you sharpen your message and we give you concrete hints and tips of how to get paid or get paid a higher fee or get paid indirectly as a speaker as well. So Brenda, our amazing rockstar team member Brenda, is going to share the link to that Speaking Booster Challenge that's going to run at the beginning of March. Please come and join us if you want concrete hints and tips of really how to bring your speaking to the next level and how to use speaking to grow your business further. Okay, so again, we are launching that challenge soon, but this session is not about me at all. It's all about you and our expert guest that we have with us today, right? So, on all our Hot Powered Speaking community sessions, you get practical hints and tips about that you can apply right away to elevate your speaking and you grow your business further. You can also ask your personal questions, okay, and how to make your speaking and business flourish further, exchange with other speakers and thought leaders from around the globe, and also get help and support on what you need right now around the topic we are covering today. Also, some of you, are just here to take a break and get inspired and have fun with us. So I know we have people from all over the world, from the US, from Europe, from Asia, normally. So wherever you are, welcome. Also, these are very interactive sessions. So when you have any questions on what is being shared, put your questions into the chat. And at the end of our conversation, we'll have also an open question and answer session. So you get your own individual questions answered directly. Also, when you're not speaking, please mute yourself. And we are video recording this session. It will be in our Hall of Fame for you to watch it again, to pick up more golden nuggets, and for everyone else that's not here with us today to catch up on it afterwards. Well, as you know, every month we tackle a concrete topic, and this time I know we talk about something really powerful. We talk about the email marketing blueprint for speakers, and we've invited an incredible expert guest that from the first moment I met him, I was impressed for the person he is, the speaker he is, and and what he brings to the world of speakers and entrepreneurs and beyond. And what we talk about today is I know a lot of you want to secure more speaking opportunities, and you might wonder, what does mailing have to do with securing speaking opportunities? That's exactly what you find out today. And it's really, we're going to talk about how you get speaking opportunities through mailing magic. Also, when you step off a stage, you want to stay on top of mind of everyone in the audience or the right people in the audience, and we're going to talk about that. So today we really talk about the email marketing blueprint for speakers. And I'm sure you're going to take really powerful hints and golden nuggets and practical steps away. So get ready to meet someone who has truly mastered the art of connection through the power of email. The guest that we have today is Nathan Littleton. He's a marketer, a professional speaker, and an author who has made it his mission to help businesses grow by attracting and winning more customers. And he is, really a true pioneer. He has nearly 20 years of experience in the marketing world, and he has sent over the years more than a million emails, or he's sending actually more than a million emails every single year on behalf of his clients, and his proven strategies have earned him the trust of leading brands like Microsoft, Virgin Care, and the BBC. But Nathan's journey started long before that. At just 12 years old, he was building websites from his bedroom and quickly gained a reputation for his unique approach to email marketing. Since then, he's dedicated his career to helping businesses transform their marketing campaigns from good to great by sending emails that are truly undeletable. And he's also an in-demand conference speaker, and he has been the president, the national president of the Professional Speaking Association of UK and Ireland. That's where we met. That's where we connected, and that's where he impressed me over and over. Every time I see him speak, every time we are in touch with each other. He's also been honored with the Professional Speaking Award of Excellence, even earning a spot in the PSA's Hall of Fame, a distinction shared by only around 30 speakers in the UK. He's also the author of two incredible books that he can mention more about it himself. So please, everyone here, join me in giving a very, very warm welcome to the email marketing maestro and incredible speaker, Nathan Littleton. Nathan, it's amazing to have you. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Monique. It's great to be with you, and thank you for introducing me to the Heart Power community. It's great to be here. What I love about speaking to speakers, I think perhaps more than any other audience, is that you understand perhaps more than any other audience what a crazy industry this can be. And I know that all day, every day, you'll probably be having sales conversations where you'll be speaking to people about working with their teams or speaking at their events. But I'm sure you can appreciate as well that not every single sales conversation you have leads to a genuine opportunity. Because there are loads of reasons why people don't work with us, right? It might be that they say, well, Tony, we love you, but we just don't have the budget this year. Or they might say, Monique, we really believe in what you can do, but we've already got our speakers for our events. Maybe we'll talk to you next year. So what happens in 6 months' time? What happens in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, or even 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the future? What happens when they need what you do? Are they going to go to LinkedIn and ask for a recommendation? Are they going to go to the little black book of contacts and see if there's someone in there that can help them? Or are they going to go to the person who has stayed in touch with them regularly and consistently with high quality information that helps them to do something better in their lives? That's maybe a bit of a loaded question, but I think that's the answer. And of course, if you listen to some people, they will tell you that email marketing is dead. Oh, if I had a pound for every time I've heard that. And I can understand some of the logic behind it. Attention spans are famously shorter than they've ever been. Instagram is on the rise. Everybody's on TikTok. And there's the very real chance that the emails that you carefully craft, that they'll just get thrown in with lots of other people's emails, maybe even some spam emails in there as well. So it's become even harder than it's perhaps ever been to get your emails opened and to get them read. But what I do know is that email marketing delivers the highest return on investment, perhaps other than any other marketing avenue that you can use. And what I know is that by staying top of mind with your audience, that's what can make the difference. And that can be people like Adrian. Adrian sent me an email back in 2017. And in 2017, he sent this email and he said, Nathan, I'm looking for some help with our email marketing. We run a cheese company. It's a new one on me, but runs a cheese company. Could we perhaps have a chat and see if there's a way that we could work together? And as I always do in this kind of situation, I started writing my email back and I said, hi, Adrian, it's lovely to hear from you. And yes, I'd be more than happy to help you. Perhaps we should set up a and just as I was writing the email, something struck me. I recognized that name, Adrian. Adrian, where had I seen that name before? And of course, like any good salesperson, I have a CRM system. So what did I do? I type Adrian's name into my CRM system. And of course, it was that event back in 2013, 12 years ago now, where he'd seen me speak. We had a conversation afterwards. We talked a little bit about email marketing in his debt advice business that he had back then. And we had a couple of conversations afterwards, and it just wasn't the right time. And that happens, doesn't it? It happens. And then 5 years later, he sends me an email to say, I'd like some help with my email marketing. Now, to me, it felt like he'd come completely out of the blue, from nowhere. But to him, it felt like we'd been having a conversation. And he said something really, really interesting on that call. I remember it really clearly. He said, yours is one of the few newsletters that I actually read. Now, you're maybe listening to me thinking, well, email marketing, I've tried it, I've done it, I get lots of emails, I get too many myself. I don't want to be involved in the noise in people's inboxes. And I get it. I completely understand because I'm in exactly the same position. I receive hundreds of emails every day in different folders with different things that I'm following, different newsletters, and there are plenty of those that I unsubscribe from. But there's maybe just one or two, and I'd hazard a guess that you have this too. There's maybe one or two that you actually look forward to reading because you know that it provides enough value to you that it's something that you want to make a part of your day. And that's where we want to be with our audiences too. We want them to be saying, yours is one of the few newsletters that I actually read. So if we could spend the next hour understanding exactly how we do that and get people to look forward to our emails, make sure that we stay top of mind, would that be a good use of the next hour or so? I'm seeing a few nodding heads, a couple of thumbs up there as well. Okay, that. Oh wow, Guido has some fireworks there. That's even better. I like that. I like that. Because what we're looking to do here is to make sure that we do stay top of mind. Make sure that in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, we are the first person that our audience thinks of when they need what we offer. And this is about creating something that I call the you moment. Now, what is the you moment? Well, it's that little magical spark where, let's say, for example, someone's around the dinner table. They're with friends, they're with colleagues, maybe they're at a networking event, and someone there is talking about a challenge that they have within their life or their business. You know that little spark you get in your mind where someone says, oh, you need to speak to Monique. You need to speak to Monique. She can help you with exactly this thing. That's what I call the you moment. And it's a really powerful thing to be able to create. And not an easy one to create. But I think with the right strategy around staying in touch regularly, staying in touch consistently with your audience, that's how you help to do it. That is how you stay top of mind. In email marketing, it will be no surprise to you, I think is the most effective way of doing that. But when I speak to people as well, particularly those who I would consider to be skeptics, those who I would say are a little bit skeptical of email marketing or would maybe say that they tried it once and it didn't work for them, almost certainly what I find out is that they are missing one of the three pillars that I would say are essential to making email marketing work for you. Even worse than that, sometimes they say, oh, yeah, I send a yearly email at Christmas to say thank you and Merry Christmas to my customers. That's my email marketing strategy, and it hasn't worked. Well, as I as I would say, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And that is not a strategy. So the three pillars to make sure that it is working effectively for you, I'd like to share with you today. But just before I do, I want you to understand that these aren't sequential steps. These aren't things where you can just do the first one, do the second one, do the third one, and suddenly find that it's all in place. These things happen all at the same time, and they're almost like spinning plates. We have to make sure that we're still doing the first one while we're doing the second and while we're doing the third. But that is how you make email marketing work effectively. So the first of these pillars is to build a list. Now, this is about building a list of people who would recognize your name when it lands in their inbox. And if we can get to that little sweet spot of them looking forward to receiving it, all the better. But the only way we do that is by serving our list. You serve your list with high quality educational information that is related to their area, to your area of expertise. But not just that, it has to speak to the specific challenges and opportunities that your audience has. This is about being in the right place at the right time. There's no point in sending things that were relevant perhaps in COVID times or perhaps when things were a little bit different a few years ago. What are the challenges and opportunities that your audience has right now? And it's only when you serve your list that you earn the right to be able to send a sales message. So the third pillar is about extracting the opportunities. Where are the opportunities in your list to not just stay top of mind, but actually generate leads and generate sales? Because this shouldn't just be something about staying top of mind. What we want to do here is make sure that we are top of mind, but also just nudge people over into the point of wanting to start a conversation with us. Because that's why this is powerful. You, as speakers, I'd like to think, are in front of audiences several times a year that are full of people who would love to continue that conversation with you. And I think you owe it to them to give them an easy way of being able to continue that conversation. So, what are you doing to leverage your audiences that you're speaking to from day to day? You don't have to answer this, but just think in your own minds, are you using QR codes? Are you using sign up forms as part of the sessions that you deliver to help people to continue that conversation and make sure that you are staying top of mind in the future? But let's dig into these three pillars in a bit more detail. And we will start with the first one, which of course is to build a list. Now, the way that this has traditionally been done over many years is to add, and maybe you've got one on your own websites too. Just give me a show of hands if you have a box on your website that says sign up for my newsletter. Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's a few of you there and a few off camera too. I'm going to assume there's a few of you there too who have a box on your website that says something like this. Now, also raise your hand if you've ever been excited by the prospect of receiving someone's newsletter. Yeah, probably not. Oh, Tony's excited. Monique's excited. Here's the thing. If I tell you that I'm going to send you my newsletter, there will be something in your mind that will say that's probably not going to be very good because very few people are excited by the prospect of a newsletter itself. Rather than saying sign up for my newsletter, would it not be more attractive to your audience? Would it not be more compelling to them to say, enter your email address here and every week I'll send you my top business building tip? Or if you were a personal trainer, for example, to say, enter your email address here and on a Friday, I'll send you my top tip to make sure you stay on track with your health and fitness over the weekend. All of a sudden, we're repositioning what the value is rather than leaving it to chance that they understand what the value is. And it's not to say you shouldn't have those boxes on your website with sign up forms. Of course, you should. We want to be capturing that audience. But we also want to position the value. We also want to show exactly why they should be signing up. Because I have to say, people will put a price on their email address. They're not paying with euros or pounds or dollars, but what they are paying with is an expectation of what's going to come in the future. So you have to make sure that the value you're providing meets the price that they place on entering their email address. So you should have those boxes there, but position the value. And of course, social media plays a huge part in this as well. I get lots of people who come to me and will say, look, I want to start working on an email newsletter or I want to start sending email campaigns, but I don't really have an audience. And of course, they do. They have an audience. It's probably just not where they expect it to be. It's within their social media. But there's a word of warning here too, is that because your audience sits within social media, the challenge with that is that you are almost at the mercy of what they want to do rather than what you want to do. So the reason I see the value in email marketing, it's that your audience is in a place that you can control. And yes, things change every now and then. We have GDPR that causes a huge furore and people think, oh my God, everything's changed. And then things don't really change. You do still have access to your audience. But just out of interest, did anyone here follow the trend a good few years ago now where Facebook said, hey, here's what you need to do. Build a Facebook fan page, get lots of likes on your business fan page, and you'll be able to get your message out to that audience. Did anyone build those Facebook fan pages? A couple of you, I can see a nodding head there. Uh, that was a great idea at the time. And then, of course, Facebook moved the goalposts and said, well, actually, you can't get your message to that audience unless you pay for ads. Or maybe we'll let you send a message to them every now and then. But suddenly you lost control of being able to reach your audience. And as if to illustrate this point that these organizations are only working for them and not for you, my ex-girlfriend a few years ago, whatever you think of this, let's park it for a second. But she decided that she wanted to set up a Facebook account for her dog, Bobby. Bobby was a lovely bearded collie, the most adorable little thing, went on lots of adventures. And my ex-girlfriend decided she wanted to create a Facebook account for Bobby to say, to show what his adventures were, post pictures there, write in the voice of Bobby as though it was him that was writing it. Whatever you think of that, let's just leave that there. Uh, She did that for a few weeks, and then, as inevitably happens with this kind of thing, she got a little bit bored with it. Didn't come back to it for a few months, and then Bobby did something interesting and exciting that she thought, oh, I could post that on Bobby's Facebook account. She'd lost the password, she couldn't get access to it. She tried the forgotten password thing, and it didn't work. So she sent a message through to Facebook and said, I want to get access back to this account for Bobby. Can you help me to do this? And they said, yes, absolutely no problem at all. All we need you to do is send us a copy of Bobby's driving license. I remember a business coach back in the day telling me to systemize the process and humanize the exceptions. Well, I don't think that was really the case there. And that's a convoluted story to tell you. We want to take control of our list. We want to make sure that our ability to communicate with our audience is under our own control. So have that box on your website that encourages people to sign up. But actually, maybe we can take this a step further. We should be giving something to people in exchange for their email address. We know they put a price on it. We want to give them something of value in exchange for it. So, just by show of hands, is anyone familiar with the term lead magnet? Yeah, a couple of you. So, this is a resource that you give away in exchange for the email address, right? And with that, we want to make sure we're giving something of value. But I want to share a definition of what a lead magnet really is that I think is important because it gets to the essence of exactly how you make a great one. Now, a lead magnet in its purest form is an irresistible bribe offering a specific chunk of value to a prospect in exchange for their contact information. Now, that covers pretty much everything you need to create a great lead magnet. So let's move on to the next step. No, we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail. It's an irresistible bribe. We know that people place that high price on those email addresses. We want to make sure that when they see that on a web page, it is so irresistible that they have to enter their email address to get it. Now, how do we do that? Well, we have to provide something that is of value to them, of such value to them that it speaks to those exact challenges and opportunities that they have. And as speakers, as experts in your industries, I have no doubt that you will know exactly what those challenges and opportunities are. But it wouldn't hurt, would it? Just to go back to them and just find out what is most relevant to them right now so that you can improve the content of your speeches, the content of your training, but also the content of the resources and lead magnets that you're providing to. Maybe just go and ask that question. If there was one little thing that I could help you with right now, what would it be? And maybe just think about making that the content of your lead magnet. This is about offering a specific chunk of value, something that's easy to implement, something that they can take action on straight away. There is a virtual form of a term we have in the UK. I'm not sure if it's shared around the world, is something called shelf development. Are you aware of this? So shelf development is where you have the great idea of buying a book that you've seen because it is exactly what you need right now. And then it sits on your shelf and all of a sudden you realize 3 years later, oh, that was a good idea at the time when I bought that book. And it still hasn't been something that you've read and that you've done. The virtual equivalent of that is you sign up for a resource on someone's website because they're delivering huge value, and then it sits on your desktop. It sits in your dreaded resources folder that you hope to come back to at some point in the future, and then it doesn't happen. We want to be making sure that we're offering a real specific chunk of value, something that can be implemented immediately, right away. And to illustrate this point, I have two stories for you. The first is about there was a session that I delivered at a seminar back in, I think it was 2016, 2017. And I can share this with you as speakers because I think you'll appreciate this in a way that other audiences wouldn't. But you know, when you're on the stage and you look out at the audience and people look interested, hopefully, but there's always that one person who kind of has their arms folded like this and looks like that. And you can't help but make them the only person that you focus on. It looks like they're not interested. They're not getting anything from what you're delivering. Well, there was someone in the audience that day who looked exactly like that. And I was talking about lead magnets and how you could use them. And every time I just kept focusing on him. But I didn't want to shirk away from this. So at the end of the session, I went up to him and I said, "Hey, how was that for you?" And he said, "Yeah, it was good. Yeah. But the lead magnet stuff you were talking about, I've tried it. I've tried it. It doesn't work." Now, I don't know about you, but I see this as a challenge. So I thought that at the time as well. And I thought, okay, well, this seems strange to me because I'd put lead magnets in place for lots of client businesses. I've been using them myself for years and they've been working really, really well. So I wanted to press him a little bit more. And I said, well, what is it that you're sending out? Now, he was a tax advisor, and he said that he was sending out 14 videos over 14 days that I presume were packed with lots of tax saving tips and things that you could put into place to save tax within your business. Let's just think about that for a second. 14 videos over 14 days. Now, I would challenge anyone here to be receiving those videos and not feel completely overwhelmed with new ideas and new things that you can implement in your business. Now, I have no doubt that the content of those videos was of really high quality. I'm sure it was. But when I pressed him a little bit further, what panned out was exactly what I think you'd expect. People were watching the videos, but then they weren't making contact with him afterwards. They weren't taking that next step. And I think it's really easy to see why. People perhaps were overwhelmed. People perhaps did have enough to be getting on with and enough ideas to implement that they didn't feel like they needed his help. On the flip side of that, there is a dating coach in the US called David D'Angelo. Now, I'm not sure what I make of this as an industry. I'm not sure what you think either, but what he helps people to do is to be more successful in the dating scene. Now, when you enter your email address on his website, you get an email that says, thank you for taking the first step to becoming more attractive, more desirable, and ultimately more successful in the dating scene. Click the link below, and I'll show you how to know when your date is ready to be kissed. That's magical, isn't it? And I'm here stuck with the ugly baby of email marketing, but maybe it's a future career for me. Who knows? Whatever you think of that as an industry, you have to admit that for his audience, that is one tip that he knows his audience will be able to implement quickly and will provide credibility to him. If they implement it, they'll be able to take the next step with whatever paid services and coaching that he has. There's a very key difference there. What David D'Angelo does is he gives away one tip, but it's his best tip. It's the one thing that for his audience, for him, he knows that his audience will see him as credible and can implement immediately. The next stage of this definition is that it has to be to a prospect. We have to make sure that what we're giving away lets people know that they're the right audience for us and lets them know that we're the right person for them. I remember seeing this in COVID. There were lots of people who were pivoting into different areas of business and different areas of expertise and suddenly started creating resources and all sorts of wild and wonderful things that didn't have any real relevance to what their core business was. And the challenge with that is it then becomes an issue for them to know what you do, but also for them to be in the right audience to be able to take on the next step and take those paid services that you want to offer. So we have to make sure that what we're doing is positioning our lead magnets as being to the right people. And the final step here is that it's in exchange for their contact information. I deliver these sessions hundreds of times every year, and I would probably say 5 or 6 times a year, I get someone who will approach me and they'll say, yeah, I do the lead magnet thing. I like giving resources to my audience because I understand the value of doing that. It gives me credibility, but I don't want to ask for their email address in return. I think that's a little bit, it just feels a little bit underhand. I think that's a noble cause if that's the approach you want to take, but ultimately, we have a business to run, right? We want to do this to generate leads. We want to do this to generate sales. And I think it's not underhand to say we want to give people an easy way to continue the conversation with us. And the only way we can do that is by kind of easing that process and making sure that we do have their contact information so that we can stay in touch with them in the future. Now, what we're not saying here is that we want to spam people. If someone wants to unsubscribe, you make it as easy as possible for them to unsubscribe so that if they don't want to hear from you, they don't have to. It's as simple as that. So that is the definition of a great lead magnet. And sometimes you have to think a little bit differently when you're creating these lead magnets. You have to think a little bit outside of the box. Now, I went to a seminar a good few years ago. This was 2013. And in 2013, I remember seeing a speaker on stage. There were about 100 people in the room. And he was talking through lots of different marketing strategies. It was for new businesses. And he wasn't talking about them in any great detail. He was kind of just giving a little bit of inspiration as to here are lots of things that you could try to promote your business, to market yourself in the future. He was talking about what to put on your business card, how to get business at networking events, how to get more referrals, how to write a direct mail piece. I mean, this thing was super packed with great advice. And one of the things that he talked about was email marketing. And of course, I considered myself to be the expert in email marketing. I thought, okay, well, I'd like to see what he's got to say here. And he was talking about email marketing. And I remember him saying that email marketing should be like a machine. You should be able to press a button and then sales should come out the end. I thought that was an interesting take. And I remember him talking a little bit about subject lines as well. And there was someone at the back of the room. She put her hand up and he said, "Yes, do you have a question?" And she said, "No, not a question as such, but just something that I've tried in my business that might be relevant to everybody else." She said, "I've made a really simple change to my subject line, and I'm now getting a much higher open rate from the email newsletter that I send each and every week." I was what I considered to be the resident email expert in the room. I was looking around the room and I could see lots of people nodding like this, either because they'd done a similar thing in their business and got a similar result, or that they were thinking, yes, I should go away and try that for myself. So I thought, well, I'll stick my hand up. I stuck my hand up and I said, well, it's funny you should say that. I have an ebook that has the 20 best subject lines that you can use if you want to get higher open rates from your email campaigns. I said, I've got an exhibition table at the back. I'm sponsoring this event. If you'd like a copy of the 20 best subject lines book, just pop a business card on my exhibition table and I'd be more than happy to send it to you. I got 47 business cards, 47 from 100 people in the room. That's 47 people who wanted a copy of the 20 best subject lines ebook, an ebook that didn't exist until I wrote it the next day. But that was the opportunity that I had there. Yes, I had to stick my neck out on the line a little bit, but I knew what those subject lines were. We'd been sending email campaigns for clients for years. It would take me a little bit of time to work through those subject lines and maybe write a little bit about why I thought each one worked, get a designer to make it look pretty. But what I'd then have is a resource that people had voted with their feet to say, this is useful. Now, as speakers, how many of you, you don't have to admit this, have spent time working on crafting an online course, crafting a resource for your audience, and then find that it doesn't quite hit the mark, that it isn't something that gets the sales you were perhaps hoping for? It can happen. I'm a big believer in selling something before you make it. And this isn't about, putting people out of money. This is about making sure that there is a genuine need to the point where people are prepared to vote with their feet, either by paying money or giving their business card on an exhibition table to make sure that it's something of value to them. And this has since gone on to become one of my most successful lead magnets. It's something that now I republish every year, and the majority of the subject lines stay the same because they continue to work. But every now and then, I might take some of those out. And, I think the fact that it is published every year suddenly means that people feel like it is up to date, feel like it is more relevant. Actually, the changes that get made in there aren't hugely different from year to year. But what I'd ask you is, what could you do in a room filled with people who are expressing challenges or opportunities that are related to your area of expertise? Could you put your neck on the line? Could you put your head above the parapet and say, hey, I've got a resource on that, even if you might have to scamper home and create something very, very quickly? You've got the area of expertise that could help them. It's just about packaging that expertise in a way that is easy to implement for your audience. So out of interest, who's thinking that whether you have a lead magnet or not, you might be tempted to go and create a lead magnet now? Okay, a few of you. Well, I wonder if we could maybe take this up a notch. Let's see how sure you are that you definitely do want to create a lead magnet, because I've got a bit of a challenge for you. And I call this the hands up test. Now, what I'd like you to do, if you are deadly sure that you want to create a lead magnet and you want to build your list using a lead magnet, I would like you to write a post on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever your audience is at the moment. I'm guessing for most of you that is going to be LinkedIn. And what I'd like you to do is to say, hi, I'm going to create a resource to help people to do XYZ. And you can replace that XYZ with whatever your area of expertise is, whatever little small nugget you think you can implement for your audience. Hi, I'm creating an ebook on this. If you'd like a copy, pop a comment below saying yes, please. Now, we've done something quite clever there. We haven't given people a link to go and get the resource. What we know about LinkedIn is they don't really like you sending people elsewhere. What they want to see is engaging conversations happening. So the important thing here is you say, uh, pop a comment below and say yes, please. That suddenly gets comments that are appearing underneath. And what I'd like you to then do is to say thank you. I'd like you to put 5, 6, 7 words at least in there that says thank you. If there are people you know, maybe you can say, hey, hope the kids are doing okay. Yes, I'd be more than happy to send this to you as soon as it's ready. Different variations on those replies, honestly, to try and trick LinkedIn a little bit, trick the algorithm into showing it to more people. So the more LinkedIn sees it as an engaging conversation, the more likely they are to then show that to other people in the future. And then the more that happens, the more people comment. And with a bit of luck, you start to get more and more comments appearing. Now, when the resource is ready, you can then send messages to those people with the link to sign up, or even in those messages, just say, hey, what's the best email address to send this to? Now, the reason I think this is powerful is it helps you to do exactly what we said before. Make sure that you're creating something that people have voted with their feet to say, yes, this is useful. But also, it holds you accountable. Now, you've told me that you want to create a lead magnet, but honestly, you don't care what I think. I'm not going to check up on you to see if you've created one. But I'd like to think that your audience, your own audience, can hold you accountable, and you don't want to let them down. So we want to make sure that you're creating something that's of value. And I know things get busy in your world, but if you see the value in creating a lead magnet, let your audience hold you accountable to doing what you said you want to do. Does that all make sense? Good stuff. So that is my challenge to you. So that is how you can build a list with great resources, with a box on your website that, yes, does ask people to sign up, but also positions the value of what you can give them in your emails. Which brings us into the next of the pillars, which is about serving your list. And if you remember, this is about providing high quality educational information that is related to your area of expertise. How often should you be sending? What should you be sending? What are the right things to be sending, and what are the right formats to be sending in? Well, you could go out there and you can just start doing email marketing. You can start sending valuable information. And I would say it will get you a much better result than doing absolutely nothing. But there's a key point here is that we want to stay top of mind. And I think staying top of mind isn't just about being the loudest. It's not about sending more emails than your competition. It's about being the person who is top of mind because your audience sees you as the most valuable. This means we might have to just put a little bit more thought into the content that we're sending. Do we have themes that fit with exactly what challenges and opportunities our audience has? Do we have content in there that is going to be relevant to them right now? Is it things that are easy to implement? Is it content that encourages people to take the next step in understanding our paid services and booking us to speak? This isn't about being loudest, it's about being the most valuable. And I think newsletters are a great way to do that because newsletters at their pinnacle aren't just about saying, giving boring information. Most of the newsletters that you receive aren't of real value. This is about giving genuine value away. And you can do this in one of two ways. Now, the traditional school of how a newsletter or a value-based email would work is that you have a long form article, let's say. It might be something where you're telling a story of something that has happened to you that week. You have a very carefully crafted message at the end and your epiphany that you were led to as a result of this story, and then a nice, careful push into a call to action that says, hey, you can also buy my online course to work out how to do this in just a fraction of the time. Now, what this leads to is plenty of people expecting what they're going to receive is a long form article. Now, what we know is that people's attention spans are apparently shorter, but I think what's more important than that is that people are checking their emails in tiny pockets of time. They're checking their emails between meetings. They're checking their emails while they're perhaps on the bus or on the train and they're commuting to work. In fact, as many as 50% of people, and I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up here, but as many as 50% of people have admitted to checking their emails on the toilet. Now, what I think this illustrates is that people really are checking their emails in those tiny pockets of time. And we have to be respectful of our audience's time. The fact they've opened our email and they've decided to hopefully take something of value from us, I think is an honor, frankly, and we should be respectful of that time. What that means is that a long form article like this, many people are going to think, I don't have the time for that right now. I know what I'll do. I'll save it for later. And then later never comes. And then that content just disappears into the ether. Now, I think we can be a bit smarter about this. The way I like to recommend that you do a newsletter is by breaking that content down into different sections. And what those different sections mean is I think it's twofold. I think, firstly, your audience knows what to expect. Those sections stay the same each week, each fortnight, each month, however often you decide to send. But there's different types of media in there as well. It might be that someone's on the train, so they could read a short article or a short blog post, but perhaps aren't in the right place to be able to watch a video or to listen to a podcast. It might be that they've got the opportunity to watch a video because they're in the office and they'd rather do that because that's how they take information rather than reading a big long article that will take a long time. So we're giving people different types of media. I always recommend including a quick tip in there as well, something that might fit within a tweet. And the reason for that is I don't want to be offended if someone doesn't read my emails from top to bottom. Remember what our reason here is. We want to stay top of mind. We want to provide people with something of value, and we want them to associate our names with it. That means if all they take from it is a quick tip and they associate our names with it, I think it served its purpose. And I'd like to think then in the future, they will have more time. They'll have more time to take in the video or the blog posts or whatever it might be. But for them, all they've got is the quick tip, but they've seen it of value. That is better than an unsubscribe. That is better than feeling indifferent about the content that I have provided. So I'd encourage you to try those different types of content and break it down into sections. And I would also say that the other benefit to this is it makes it easier for you. Now, I consider myself to be a writer. I'm writing all day, every day. But even still, there's nothing worse, is there, than that blank Word document staring back at you with that little flashing cursor, just urging you to write something. And you could write anything, you could write everything. And all of a sudden, it becomes hard to write something. Yeah, this helps you to just make it that little bit easier. Rather than starting from scratch every time, all of a sudden, all you're having to do is fill in the gaps. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's much easier than starting from scratch every time. And this should be fairly straightforward, but I think the types of content that you should be providing, I think you can work against this really simple checklist. Have I provided something that's entertaining? Maybe it's funny, maybe it's a story that you've told, maybe it's even a personal story of something that happened with your kids, your grandkids, your nieces, or your nephews. Something that is entertaining in some way that maybe you can pull a message from. Maybe it's just because you want to provide a small bit of light relief. You have to provide something that's useful. Of course, this is about positioning you as an expert, positioning you as a person of credibility. And it should be related to your area of expertise, but we have to make sure it speaks to what's going on in their world right now too. And we want to provide stuff that's interesting too. Like, I work with plenty of industries where you might say that they're not in the traditionally most interesting areas. I work with accountants, I work with dentists, I work with tax advisors, I work with solicitors and lawyers. Traditionally, if you were to look at the content that is put out by most of those businesses, it's a little bit dry. It's not the most interesting, but it doesn't mean it can't be. Those people can still tell stories. Those people can still frame their content, however technical and however expert led it is, into interesting stories, into interesting content and facts and things that people might not have considered. Because you're still providing value, but we want to make sure that it is as engaging as possible. And I think the reason we want to do that is, and I firmly believe this, is that every email you send is an audition for the next one. So don't suddenly think that you can, we have a term in the UK here, to phone it in, to kind of do the bare basics of what you need to do to get that newsletter out because, hey, you're busy and you've got client work to be working on. But if that affects your ability to get your next message out there, if that affects your ability for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 500 people to suddenly think, I don't think their heart's really in this, that's when you start to see your unsubscribe rate go higher and people feel less interested, looking forward to the content that you're sending out. So we want to make sure that we are exciting people, we're interesting in them, and ultimately we're providing value. But ultimately, this is also about making sales. And I think it's that valuable content that you send out that helps to, I think it earns you the right to then be able to send those sales messages. And I think there's a really important balance that you can strike here as well. This is about giving the 80% educational content just out of the goodness of your heart because you want to be an expert in what you do and you want to provide value. But then that also puts you in a good place to be able to recommend products or services that might provide shortcuts, that might make things easier for your audience if they can part with their hard-earned time and money to do so. So if you have blog posts and videos that are around a particular subject, it's only natural that you could then recommend an online course, recommend your new book, recommend booking you to speak in an event, because it will help them to take a deeper knowledge of what you're talking about, because it will help them to do something quicker, it will help them to do something better. Ultimately, that's what we want people to do. We want to generate those leads and we want to generate those sales. So that kind of covers the content side of serving your list. But I want to talk about something that I've alluded to a little bit already over the course of today's session, which is about subject lines. I am fascinated by subject lines because I just think it's amazing how this tiny little piece of text, 2, 3, 4, 5 words, can make such a big difference to the results that you get. If someone doesn't open your email, they're not going to read it. And if they don't read it, they're not going to take the action that you want them to take. I saw a stat on this which says that 64% of people say that they open an email because of the subject line. Now, I like putting stats in presentations that I deliver, but if I'm honest, I don't believe this one. I think it's much, much higher than 64%. It surely has to be, because between the from name and email address and the subject line, this is the single biggest reason why someone is going to decide to open an email or not. So, hey, maybe that 30 odd percent, maybe that's just people seeing the name and deciding, hey, this person isn't for me. I don't want to read something from them at this time. But what I think it does tell us is that subject lines are important. We know that. So if that's the case, why then do we see subject lines like March newsletter? Why do we see subject lines like special offers? Who's excited by special offers? No? No? Okay. No? Okay. Which means we need to work it a little bit harder. And I've got a simple formula for how you can create great subject lines. And it is simple, I promise you. But also, I would suggest you start looking at the emails you receive, because I think your email inbox is the best source of new subject line ideas for you. And I call this my swipe file. I have folders in my email inbox that are packed with lots of newsletters, lots of emails that I've received. And this is my swipe file. These are pieces of marketing, emails that I've received where I think, oh, I could use something from that in the future. And it might be a subject line, it might be the copy that's in there. I'd encourage you to do this with other marketing you receive as well. What's the best brochure you've ever seen? When you come to create your own brochure, do you look to what worked from that one and see whether there's some elements that you could use? Have a think about what your swipe file would look like. And I'd encourage you to think wider about how that fits within all your marketing, but certainly with your emails. If you've seen a subject line that made you open an email, just file it away for a rainy day. But I talked about a formula, and it is a simple formula. Your subject lines simply have to be interesting and intriguing. They have to be interesting enough that they stand out in that crowded inbox with all those other emails, and make sure that yours is one that gets spotted. But they also have to be intriguing enough that someone is prepared to take that next step. And what I'm not talking about here is misleading people by saying, hey, free kittens, and then all of a sudden your email doesn't give a free kitten. No, we're not into clickbait here. We want to make sure that it is intriguing enough that they take the first step, but then we have to make sure that the content of our email is relevant and doesn't under-deliver on the promise that we've made within the subject line. So we want them to be interesting, and we certainly want them to be intriguing. Would some examples be helpful? I mentioned about the ebook with the 20 best ones, but there's a few that I'd like to talk through here for you as well. Quick question, and this is one of my favorites. Quick question, I think this just plays on that little element of human psychology where someone would want to know what your question is before they at least decide whether they're prepared to answer it or not. So of course, then you have to make sure that your question is compelling, but it might just teeter people over that line to get them to open the email. Now, I mentioned about human psychology there. I think this one plays into that as well. You can use thanks and then the person's name. And most email marketing applications nowadays will include something called merge tags. So you can insert their name in place of the merge tag, and it will automatically update that depending on who is receiving it. But again, I think it just plays on that little element of human psychology. People will want to know what it is that you're thanking them for. And it might be that they decide, okay, I'm not interested in that, but you can move them on and you can compel them further forward. But what we definitely don't want is for people to make a decision on whether the value in our content is there just based on two, three, four, 5 words. That's why we want to intrigue them. It's why we want to take the next step. I'll include one here now that has been really successful, but I think is one that you should use sparingly, and that is cancelled. Cancelled works very, very well. We've seen open rate boosts of 20 or 30% over what previous editions have got just based on this one. You have to be very careful about where you use it and use it sparingly, but think about where you might be able to tell a story of an event that you went to that was cancelled, for example. And maybe you can build off that to create your own story and your own call to action. But that one works very, very well. Running an email marketing agency, I get the opportunity to test lots of subject lines. Sometimes they're simple, sometimes they're just a bit weird and a bit wonderful. Don't open this email is one we've tested a few times. It's worked very well. Again, it's not one I'd use all the time, but it's one that just plays on that element of human psychology. You know, if you were to ask a 4-year-old child, whatever you do not press that button. What do they want to do? They want to press the button. And whether you are 4 or 40, there's just that switch in your mind. You just can't help it. So that works very well. One of the types of sessions that I like to deliver is called Delivered Live. It's about not just showing people and not just telling people, sorry, how to use email marketing, but actually to show them. And over the course of 2-3 hours, we will send an email campaign live from stage. And I did this for a shipping company a few years ago. They send parcels all around the world for businesses. And we were creating an email campaign live from stage. We wrote the copy. We got to the point of creating the subject line in there. And the aim with this was that it was going to go out to someone in the audience. It was going to go out to their list who we'd pre-arranged with them. Great session to show people that it's really easy to do and we can do it over just a couple of hours. We got to the point of creating the subject line, and I'd been talking about what makes a great subject line, so I was taking suggestions from the audience, and there were a few suggestions there that were okay. Some of them, if I'm honest, were a little bit boring, but that's okay. They're uninitiated. They'll get better in the future. And then this beauty came up. How big's your package? Now, you have to admit that for a shipping company who are going to send packages for businesses, if they're going to do that, they need to know how big that package is. But also, there's a double meaning there, of course. And I thought it was great. There were people in the audience there that day that were laughing hysterically, louder than you, if I'm honest, but I'm not going to take that personally. That's absolutely fine. But there were also a few people in the audience who were shaking their heads. One person came up to me afterwards and said, Nathan, it was good, but I just don't think that's really appropriate for us as a business, for the type of brand that we want to be putting across there. And I get it. I completely get it. What we're looking to do here is to create subject lines that are interesting enough that they stand out. But you get to decide where the line is. You get to decide what voice you want to put out there in your emails and in any marketing that you do. So yes, you do want to get more people to open your emails, but you also want to put across the brand voice that you expect people to see. So a few subject lines there. The link has been put in the chat to the ebook as well if you want to get a copy of that. But I would urge you, if you take anything away from this session today, it's to put more thought into your subject lines. Don't undo all the hard work that you put into creating your newsletters and creating your email campaigns by suddenly not having the time and thought into the subject lines. Which brings us on to our third and final pillar, which is to extract the opportunities. Now, I've got one simple thing for you here that I think could make a real difference to you. And I would suggest using this to follow up on previous leads, to follow up on maybe those leads that have gone cold, maybe people who have inquired with you in the past, but it hasn't gone anywhere and you're just looking to capture them in the future. This is what I call my 3-line email. This is about as simple an email campaign as it gets, but I would urge you to use it and think about where the opportunities are within your pipeline to be able to use this 3-line email. It's super simple. Are you ready? Can we get a drum roll for this, for how simple this email is? I see the drum roll. Okay, here we go. It simply says, "Hi, are you still interested in X?" It says thanks, and that is it. You could even call this a 1-line email, really. The core of this is about saying, are you still interested in X? Now, if you've ever thought that you've got a pipeline of people that you want to work with and you need a little bit more from them, but it just feels like a big job going back through those old prospects, this could not be simpler. If you could send this email to 10 people today and let me know what result it gets, if it's at least a conversation, I'd love to know about it. But if that's a conversation that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't sent this email, hey, maybe, just maybe, that's an opportunity that could lead to something in the future. So we can't talk in too much detail about extracting the opportunities. All I would suggest is that you have a great subject line, make your emails of value, and make sure that you are giving people everything they need to stay top of mind in the future. This is a really simple process, but those three pillars of building a list, of serving your list, and extracting the opportunities, they don't just happen sequentially. You have to make sure that you're keeping those spinning each and every time. But I hope that's been useful to you today. We do have a little bit of time to be able to answer some questions as well. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Fabulous, Nathan. Yay, drum roll for having you on. Oh my God, that was like a shower of so many instant tips all at once. Amazing. What a great, yeah, so many golden nuggets. I don't know if that one was answered from Notesh yet. It was about the length of newsletters, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I don't think we've answered it yet, right? Like how long should the newsletter be? And for everyone else, please, pick Nathan's mind, heart, brain, and everything. Put your questions into the chat. I think we can answer a few more, right, Nathan?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's
Right.
take that one of how long newsletters should be. I
Yeah.
think if you're breaking it down into sections, it makes it a little bit easier for you to make it slightly longer. But what I'd encourage you to do is make things easy for yourself. Like a good newsletter of high value that is 300 to 400 words is always going to be better than something that's 1,000 words or 1,200 words, but is going to be difficult for people to read. They're expecting it to be long. It feels like a big job for them. Make it easy for yourself and make it easy for your audience. I would aim for somewhere around 500 words as a general rule, but there's no hard and fast rule on it. Concentrate on the value rather than the length.
Great. Natalia asked a question. Is the excellent service like the example mail, like are you still interested in, right? Is the excellent service the service of order result offered?
It is, yes, yeah. So it can either be based on the service or the result. I would suggest if you're using the result, it can sometimes come across a little bit cheesy. You have to be careful with how you word it. But let's say it's an inquiry for someone who wanted you to speak at an event. It could be as simple as, are you still looking for speakers for this event, or are you still interested in improving your team's lead generation? Are you still interested in, you're looking at almost the process rather than necessarily the end result. The reason I think it can come across a bit cheesy is the end result of what we're looking to offer people is ultimately generating money, revenue, it's saving time, it's doing those things. So I think if you have something that says, are you still interested in earning more money next year from your leads? Are you still interested in, it can just feel a little bit forced. What we want this to do is come across as a personal, off the cuff email. Oh, I was just wondering, are you still interested in? So don't make it feel as though it's a carefully crafted thing. It's a 3 line, simple email. Don't overthink it, would be my best advice.
Love it. Great. There's a question about the preview text that comes with the subject line. You want to say something about that?
Yeah, so the technicals behind this are that you can, in most email marketing applications, you can enter a little bit of preview text, which is in, say, Gmail or in Apple Mail, whatever it might be. There is a piece of text that you tend to see below the subject line. Now, this might be a bit divisive. I did a bit of testing with this. I tend not to use full preview text. I tend not to specify what the preview text should be. My thinking behind this is I want the preview text to be the first words that I say in the email. So I want it to say, hi, Monique. I want it to say, hi, Brenda, and then go into the content of the email because I want it to look like a personal email that's being received. I want it to stand out by blending in. I know that's a bit of an oxymoron, but I want it to stand out by blending in with all the other emails that they're receiving. So they're not thinking, oh, well, they're the marketing emails, they're the newsletters. I'll get to those at another point. So we want people to click through and be intrigued by what we've got to say. And I think the best way to do that is for it to say hi and then the person's name and then just open into a sentence. So that's what I tend to use as preview text, and it works pretty well.
Right. There's a question from Simona. I don't know. Should the information content be given in different formats of an email, like the body text versus video in the same email, be the same, or should those formats cover different content?
I think I've understood the question correctly. If I haven't, then please let me know. You do want different formats in there, so I would suggest a good format for a newsletter I usually use is an introduction. Might be a very short story. It might preview the content of the rest of the email. I would suggest having a blog post. I would have a video. I would have a link to to a podcast if you have one of your own or if you're guesting on somebody else's. I would have a quick tip and I would have a promotional piece. What's new? It might be a new book you've launched, a new online course, it might be a new service, or it might simply be, hey, book a call with me to find out about speaking at your event. Um, I think a key distinction to make here as well is that you don't want to be creating fresh content for your newsletter every single time because it makes it hard for you. And ultimately, that content sort of dies after a few days. If people have read it, great. If they haven't, it's not going to be seen by anyone else ever again. So make it easier for yourself and think of your newsletter as a way of pointing people in the direction of content that you're creating elsewhere. If you're already creating YouTube videos, you're already writing blogs, you're already creating or guesting on podcasts, point people in the direction of those. And then the content that is unique to each newsletter might be 100 words, 200 words, but it also helps you to measure the engagement because you can see the clicks, you can see how many people have gone through to the video and things like that. So I hope someone I've covered that question. If I haven't, then please let me know.
Right. There's another one from Johanita. She's asking, is there a quick explanation of the differences between newsletters, email, blog, and article on LinkedIn? What do you use for what? And do you combine it by sending LinkedIn articles and so on to your email subscribers? I think you already kind of shared it, to a certain extent, but maybe you want to emphasize on that a little bit.
I'm not sure if the focus of this question is about articles and newsletters on LinkedIn because newsletters on LinkedIn are a thing as well. Um, so I think you can do a couple of things. So you mentioned there about sending LinkedIn articles to your email subscribers. Absolutely, yes. So I have one client, for example, who has three sections to her newsletter. She has an intro story, and she has here are the things I've posted on LinkedIn this week, and she posts every single day on LinkedIn, and it's almost like a highlights reel of, hey, is this of interest to you? Is this of interest to you? Is this of interest to you? So yes, definitely use if you're posting on LinkedIn regularly, use that as content that you can point people to.
Great. Natasha's asking, presumably someone could do the activity of, if you would like to know more about XXS from XXX, please write your email address below for me to their contact list.
So I'm guessing this is to do with the hands up challenge, with the hands up challenge of posting on LinkedIn and getting people to comment below. Um, I think if you get people to post their email address underneath, you're maybe missing an opportunity to be able to get in touch with them later. I think what's powerful about this is you want LinkedIn to see it as an engaging conversation. And I think having some variation in what people are saying rather than just linking email addresses underneath, I think will help with that. But also, this gives you an opportunity to be able to send messages to those people to say, hey, this resource that I promised you, it's ready. You can get a copy of it here, or let me know your best email address and I'll send it to you now. And then you can sign them up that way. But also, what's new in your world?
Right.
What's going on in your business today? That could lead to a conversation that might lead to something else.
Mm. I also, a lot of the things that you shared, Nathan, is helping when you're a speaker, you're on stage, you want to stay in touch with people, you want to, you want to nourish relationships and so on, stay on top of mind of people. Are there certain concrete things you do to build that connection with event organizers to get a gig in the first place? So what do you do mail marketing wise to really ensure that, you get an opportunity? I mean, one thing is, of course, being on top of mind of people. When they put an event together, they think of you, they get you a newsletter, and I think like you're a great speaker. But maybe there's a couple of additional hints you can give around that.
So outside of email,
No, with emails.
hmm.
Mail
Okay.
marketing.
So with email, it is providing those value pieces. I would say the reason I think it's so important that we're capturing people within the audience is I mean, I have never put pounds and pence on it, but I could probably put tens of thousands of pounds worth of business that have come from someone who's been in the audience that has then been in a position to work with me in the future. So
Mm,
hopefully they've had some experience of me being at an event and seeing that I can deliver on stage, but also is what they see from me afterwards, is that professional? Is that positioning me as a speaker that will be easy to work with, as a speaker that is going to make their job easy on the day? So some of the content might not just be around your area of expertise. It might speak to the other challenge that your audience might have, which is we need to find speakers. We need to provide speakers that are going to be of value. We need to provide speakers that are just going to make the day run smoothly and we're not going to have to worry about them. So maybe think about the content that you could put out there that shows you as a professional speaker rather than just an expert in what you do.
great. Okay. Thank you so much for being on with us, Nathan. I don't see any new email questions coming in, but I definitely highly recommend. Okay, make sure you get the ebook from Nathan on the subject lines for sure. I definitely gonna grab one right away after the call, so for sure. Nathan, yeah, is there any final inspirational message you want to share with everyone? And maybe before we go there, I also want to mention to all of you that are here with us right now. I know all of you want to step up with your speaking, otherwise you wouldn't be in our Heart Powered Speaking Community call today. We will run again our fabulous, famous speaking breakthrough challenge at the beginning of March. So please, everyone, right? And Brenda, if you can share the link again, thank you here. All of you step up. There's so many hints and tips we share with you on what you can do. Nathan gave us so many hints on how do you get, what you can do to stay on top of mind with emails, to stay in touch with people, to make them feel like you are on their side all the time, even beyond stepping off stage. But the question is, how do you get onto stages? How do you sharpen your message to, be a speaker that stands out? How do you monetize your speaking? How you grow your speaking, you speaking to grow your business further? All of the things we'll cover in our 3 days, step by step, deep dive challenge. So join us for that one. Okay, the link is again in the chat. But Nathan, to run it off on your side, on your session day, oh my God, so many golden nuggets. And, definitely all of you, please play along on the challenge that Nathan has given us today. But Nathan, any final words to inspire everyone to walk away, not only with a lot of golden nuggets, but also, to encourage, inspire, empower everyone to move forward and implement what we've learned today?
Yeah, sure. I can appreciate for many of you, this might be a bit overwhelming in that, there are lots of things we think we need to do to market our speaking businesses and even with email marketing, how do you do it right? It's so easy to get overwhelmed by everything that you could do. But the simple thing that I would say is the email that you send, the newsletter that you send that is 90% right, but gets sent is always going to get you a better result than the email that is 100% perfect, but never leaves your outbox. Make a start. And I'd love to hear how it works for you in the future too. Please let me know.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Love, love, love it, right? The imperfect mail is always better than the perfectly sent one. Love it. And all of you, please get in touch with Nathan, connect with him, right? If you want to really reach the next level on doing mail marketing in a professional way, in an entertaining, irresistible, as he calls it, right? Irresistible leading the magnet, right? If you want to step up with that, please get in touch with Nathan. Tap into his genius, his brilliance. Maybe do some work with him. Would be amazing. So Nathan, thank you so much for being on with us, for sharing all these golden nuggets, all these hints and tips. We can hear about these things as often as we want to, and there's always something that we pick up and say, that's something how I can raise my game. So thank you for all these hints and tips, very practical steps. And all of you, thank you for being on with us today, and see you again next month in another uplifting, inspiring session with another incredible guest. In between, of course, we'll see all of you and bring all your friends to our Speaking Booster Challenge. Anyone that has a message worth spreading, let's step up together. And as I said, in the meantime, just, use the power of your voice. Okay. Our slogan is speak up, scale up, impact the world. So go out there, all of you. Okay. And no matter if you're on the stage or you send emails or you're on social media, really fully embrace the value of your story, of your message, and get it out there. And now as well, hopefully Nathan helped you to raise your game on the mailing side as well. So get your voice heard, go out there, use your unique message and story and expertise The world needs to hear you now more than ever. So go out there and speak up, scale up, impact the world, and we'll be in touch. See you soon, everyone. All the best for today.